Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I am your host, Jeff Howard, and I've got Josh Baker and Chevy Knight with me. Hey, you two.
Hey.
And you are here because the two of you are responsible for the movie Dry.
We are.
Yes.
And Dry was at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2024. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big fan. I think it kicks ass. By the way,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to whip out David Foster Wallace this early.
Oh, wow. It's like not even noon. Okay,
When
let's go.
when someone acknowledges, ever since Infinite Jest, which I read when it came out, I've been moderately obsessed with addiction themed art, and so you can imagine how much I respect Dry in so many ways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And but before we get into that, I will mention that Dry took home the Filmmakers Award for Outstanding Cast Performance. I love awards like cast performance. I hate when you pull an actor out of the film and like pretend that one actor was solely responsible.
Yeah.
But as the lead actor, Chevy, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great
I appreciate
performance.
that.
And no actors get awards without a great writer-director, so...
Correct.
Thank you.
And that's, I guess I should have said, Josh is the writer-director, and the two of you produced together,
We did,
Yes.
and Chevy was the lead actor, so kick-ass movie.
Thank
So
you.
glad you're here.
Thanks.
And are you near the end of your festival run?
Yeah, Sherman Oaks was it. That was the last one.
That was it.
Yeah,
That was
we're
it.
actually going to, after this, go home and put it up on Vimeo finally.
Yeah.
All right.
Share it with everyone.
Well, then that's the perfect segue for me to say the Vimeo will be linked in the show notes. Just send me the
Oh, cool.
link
Yeah,
to the Vimeo link and
perfect.
put it in the show notes so anyone who listens to this can instantly go watch it.
Perfect. Love that.
And all good. So, as you might know, I always ask, I didn't warn you, see, because you guys watched me struggle with microphones for 45 minutes, and I didn't bother sharing that I just asked you this random general question to start the podcast, which is, what got you into the arts? Because, as you can imagine, as someone who runs 2 film festivals, I just love that people who devote their lives to the art of film are still around. I mean, I just think that when you make a short film, Lord knows, you might be, working towards bigger things, but someone who makes a short film and produces their own short film is not saying to themselves, they're not rubbing their hands together going, oh, this is going to get me a new car. You know what I mean? It's like the opposite, right?
We had
Yeah.
to sell a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, I really do see it as kind of a purist kind of thing. So I'm curious what got you both involved in the arts. So if you want to go back to like childhood, if you picked up if a parent had a video camera and you just started playing with it, or if, the cutest person in school was in the drama club, that sometimes gets people into it. You never
Yeah,
know.
that's true.
So who would like to go first, and who wants to share how they
I guess
became a creative?
I'll start. I grew up with my parents met on the set of an 80s teen ranch comedy, so that's pretty fun. So film has kind of always been around in our house. My mom did theater in college, and I do theater now, which I absolutely love. My brother, who's older, he wanted to, make films when he was younger, and we had a video camera, and I think the only film I made with my brother was me being beaten up by him constantly. Sorry, Jess. And I had girlfriends in elementary school. We would make our own horror films, which were really silly and ridiculous.
And just having fun with like a video camera.
Just having fun with the video camera and trying to figure out how to edit on a camcorder in the 90s.
Well, right, because you would edit it in camera.
Yeah, we have to
yeah,
do it in
all
camera,
that.
absolutely.
Which I always praise as like one of the best ways to learn like disciplined editing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And the most frustrating.
And the most frustrating, absolutely. But I love doing theater. I wanted to be on Broadway when I was younger, so acting kind of just, I guess, happened. But I didn't really want to make any movies until Josh and I got together and started making them. That was I guess that's it.
We're one for one so far.
One for one. Yeah.
Am I allowed to nag you what the name of the film your parents met on was?
Absolutely. They met on the set of Porky's.
Porky's.
Yeah.
Someone my age.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, her dad was in one of the stars of
Yes,
Porky's.
my dad was one of the stars of Porky's. My mom was a script supervisor on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so there's that.
There's that. So the idea. So you grew up in LA, and the idea of acting was there from the beginning.
Yeah, my dad always kept pursuing it. He would, have odd jobs and like serving, and he would always try to go to auditions, and didn't really happen. But he has his old claim to fame, which is great.
Well, there's also something really cool about that for me, which is you were not presented with you were presented with the realities of acting.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Right? There was no, you didn't grow up in a bubble of, like, you didn't grow up in the Hollywood bubble of,
No.
like you can't miss at this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I grew up with somebody who the series of the movies, because there are 3 Porky's movies, it kind of wrecked the career of the guys who were in it, I feel like. Because they didn't really go off to do anything else because they were seen as just these horny teenagers trying to get laid.
Yeah, super typecast.
Super typecast. So that's
and it was the kind of film that Hollywood doesn't respect.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
we were reading like old magazine articles and reviews from the film, and it's just like, oh my God, they're
brutal.
This is vicious.
Yeah. Which is interesting because Bob Clark, who wrote and directed Porky's, also made A Christmas Story and the original Black Christmas. So you have his filmography is like
Wild.
insane to me. But yeah, that was always kind of a looming thing in our house. Like, oh, Dad was in Porky's. So when I talk to any male over the age of 35, they're like, oh, I know that movie. I'm like, yeah, I bet you do.
My funny confession is I didn't see it in high school.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. Yeah. And I actually have never seen it.
Really?
I'm just aware that there was a lot of bare breasts.
It's
right?
honestly really not.
It's not.
That,
It's pretty
campy,
tame.
huh?
Yeah, and I think I might be biased because your dad is in it, but it's actually got a positive message.
Absolutely.
I remember you got into an argument in school with someone who
did.
was saying that it's
Anti-feminist.
and all these things, and which you look at it through the lens of 2024. Sure, there's some questionable things, but
Yeah.
I think overall.
It's very feminist.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of guys, yes, trying to get laid, but they also get what they deserve, kind of.
Yeah.
But one of your questions of the most, what is it, our favorite movie is underrated. So I think one of the most underrated films, I think, is Porky's. That was going to be my answer. I think people should be seeing it.
That is a cool preview. And now you've already, now I really do want to see it. Because I do think that back then we did have subtle messages, and even if things don't hold up entirely, like there's some really unfortunate things in a lot of 80s films.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
But, I'll still defend Revenge of the Nerds as like a brilliant film about racism, even if there's rampant racism and sexism throughout.
Yeah.
But there's still, they managed to make a film where the allegory of the first black students at a university who had to form their own fraternity.
Yeah.
Right? That's what the story's about.
Yeah.
But they had to make it about nerds because if you made it about black people, then America wouldn't have gone to see it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, but there's a
now
ton
I
of
gotta
movies back then that, like, what my biggest thing, I always joke, I could teach a class about 80s teen raunch comedies. My biggest thing is in these movies, like Animal House, everything has a consequence. And same with Porky's. In Revenge of the Nerds, there are some consequences, but not a lot of consequences, I could argue. Setting up cameras in a sorority house and them just sitting there and not really getting any kind of...
No. The sex, there's
and
so
mouth
much
rape,
wrong with it.
no big
There's
deal.
And the only black character had to be gay because that's Americans could only handle that, I guess.
Exactly. So...
Just
But Porky's 2 is actually about fighting racism within their community because there's a Native American student who gets cast in the lead in the play, and then the guys, band together and they fight against the racist preacher in the community, and
See? Very cool.
There's things in there within the sex and wanting to get laid. There's
I'm so
stuff in
silly
there.
that, like, as you said, like, you could teach a class in, like,
I could.
80s raunch. I'm like,
comedies.
that could be a good festival panel.
Hey, call me when you need it.
But and I actually want to praise something in your story, which is you mentioned stage work. And I kind of put actors on a higher pedestal if they do screen and stage, both, because, you know, I'm about to be a total asshole and admit that, like, you know, when people, of course you grew up here, but people who move to LA to act and just like self-tape, whatever, then they don't do any stage. And I'm like, have you thought about doing a play?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, and then, you know, oh, you came here to get famous. You didn't come here to act.
Yeah.
Like, acting on stage, I think, is wonderful.
It's great, and it's extremely difficult, and there's no do-overs, especially during a performance. No cuts. Yep.
And you really develop some chops that
Absolutely.
way, and you learn so much.
Yep.
And then there's those things you have to unlearn for the camera, but that's okay.
Yep. Stop being
easier,
so
yeah.
big. Yeah. Bring it down. Anyway, so that's mine. Yeah.
That's yours.
Josh, over to you.
It's my turn now?
Your turn.
My dad was not in an 80s raunch comedy.
He was
I'm
not.
Sorry.
No.
But yeah, I think, like Chevy, I grew up with 3 brothers, so there's 4 of us, if you can imagine that. And we would just take our parents' video camera and just film things and make movies. And both of my parents were actors too. And so I think growing up, it was, especially from our dad's side of things, he would sit us down and educate us on what we were going to watch. And watching movies was like a big deal because it was a big deal. I don't know. Yeah.
There was a message. There could be a message with it.
Sure, maybe. But I think more because he approached it from such an artistic kind of point of view. So growing up watching movies with him kind of taught all of us how to watch movies, if that makes sense. And then it's funny growing up because my parents are divorced. And my dad was definitely the more type A, we have dinner together every night and this is what we do. And then my mom's house was just kind of a free for all in a good way, not a bad way. But he would, you know, he'd show us a movie and then we'd go to our mom's house for a couple of days and we'd just run to Blockbuster and rent as many films as we could and just ingest all the things that he was like, oh, you're a little too young to watch this. Like, oh, cool. We can just wait for when we go to mom's and we'll rent it from Blockbuster. So I think a lot of the way I got into it, probably the way a lot of people do, is just watching movies.
Yeah.
And then finding time to make them when we could. And then in high school, learning how to write, I think, was really my into it. Being like, okay, people write their own movies. Cool. When you learn that for the first time, it's like, oh, Quentin Tarantino. I remember Pulp Fiction, really. I saw that when I was in like the 7th or 8th grade. Probably a little too young, but thanks, Dad. I think that was the first time I was like, whoa, someone wrote this and then directed it based on their words, and this is kind of their vision. I think seeing that for the first time really blew my mind.
Well, and I assume watching with both parents, but watching with parents who were associated with it, like you were aware of behind the camera stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
A lot of people grew up somewhere. You know, if you go, I meet people from the Midwest who are like, I watch movies and I never realized people made them.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think again going back to Pulp Fiction, I think that and Taxi Driver I saw around the first time. Saw together around the same time. And both of those were like, oh, someone made this. Okay, cool. It wasn't just exactly what you're talking about. I didn't know people made movies. But then when you watch movies with such specific visions and something to say like those, it's like, okay, this comes from a point of view.
And were you a creative kid before that?
I think I was just a weird kid. I don't know. I would draw a lot.
You would draw, but right, you weren't writing short stories or anything.
No, I was a terrible writer. Like I got D's and F's on most of my papers growing up, and then it wasn't until 11th grade I had an English teacher who really, thank God for her, she sat me down and was like, this is how you write, and this is what you need to do. And I always remember, she's like, you always need nice, juicy adjectives, and that always stuck with me. Yeah.
Juicy
to be more
adjective.
descriptive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so now when you write, your scripts probably are more descriptive.
They're very juicy. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. And so was it high school when you started writing?
Yeah. And my oldest brother is a writer, and I think seeing him write was like, oh, I can do this. Cool. It's not some ethereal thing that's super out of reach. It's only for like Herman Melville and those kind of people. Yeah.
Right, and it doesn't have to be a novel.
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
And when did you first get to play with a camera?
Like elementary school, middle school. Yeah.
Oh, so even earlier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We were making movies the whole time, but just like silly little spoofs of things. And
Right,
yeah.
and you were just winging it. You didn't actually sit down and plan something out?
No, because every time we did, it would just turn into a total disaster. And so we realized, like, just kind of improvise it, and that's way more fun.
Just
for
go
us.
with it.
And I think we kind of carried that over to the films we make, especially we just shot one in June that we kind of have a big scene that we're like, let's just wing it.
Just go with it. Yeah.
I can get very comfortable with that.
Were how many siblings total?
3. So there's 4 of us.
4.
All boys.
4 boys.
Yes.
So that's why mayhem feels kind of natural.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, it checks out.
Yeah.
But also you get. I said mayhem feels natural, but I'll also say but also the value of improvisation, the value of not winging it, but being open to.
I think it being comfortable with that. Like, hey, we're going to try something and it might not work, but hey, we can always do it again.
Being adaptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. And did you? I'm gonna follow up with before you two met. So, at what point did you make a film that was kind of like a full story instead of like just recreating a scene or something after seeing the work of those Italian dudes?
I think it was because I made a bunch of silly movies, but I always say my first real movie was like 2013, 2014. I got to shoot on film. It was like a real story. And it's funny, I kind of stayed away from it for a long time, but just a couple months ago, I rewatched it for the first time. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. Yeah, proud of myself. Yeah.
Hell yeah! And was that part of a program, like part of a school thing?
No, so
you shot on film.
I was working at a production company, and just happened. They always say it's all who you know, and sadly, for better or worse, it is. And I knew someone who worked at Kodak who could get us free film, and it just kind of all worked out.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah,
because
it was amazing.
Because I'll try not to call myself old too many times, but I need to say I'm from the era where the bar of entry was really high to work with film. I mean, you would sit there and the idea of multiple takes, indie film used to have to limit it to maybe 2-3 takes tops because it was dollars per minute. Now this digital world, let's have a 10 minutes, you could have a 20-minute shot and do it 7 times and you haven't spent more than you would have. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but I love working with film. I wish I could do it more.
Oh, cool. So that was post school.
So I didn't really go to school. I'm in school now. I learned my lesson. School is good. Everybody go to school. But no, I started going back so I wasn't in school. I just was working whenever I could. And then during COVID, I started going back to school.
All right, I'm going to drill in on that then.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. So just finish high school and just start working and playing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Just good. And wow, so you really that's just so refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was a good idea or a bad idea. It's just kind of what I did. So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to anyone, but...
And you both grew up in LA area?
Yeah, she more Santa Clarita, but also out here. And then I was born in Reseda, then we moved to Agora, and then when I turned 18, I moved to Woodland Hills, so I'm a Valley boy.
Wow. 3, and Santa Clarita's honorary valley, right?
Yeah,
they're one
it's a valley, not the valley, but
A valley.
Yeah.
But it's a valley that if you want to do stuff, you have to drive to this valley.
Correct. But there are a lot of they do film a lot of stuff out there. Yeah. Ton of shit out there.
And so many people have moved out there. I mean, yeah, crazy.
It's not for me.
But I'm just going to we're finishing the year. This is December 31st.
Yeah.
3 Angelino locals
At one table.
sitting at a table at microphones. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's rare. That's super rare.
We're unicorns.
Because I'm 3rd generation LA.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
I think I'm first.
My dad's from San Diego.
By the way, I am stretching the truth because I have a grandma from San Diego.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Although she was born in Anaheim.
Okay.
But
I always joke with my brother because I was born in Santa Monica Hospital and he was born in Florida. So I'm like, you're not a real Californian.
He's a Florida person.
He's a Florida boy.
Yeah.
Well, because they were
Florida.
filming the
Porky's.
the second Porky's when he was being born. So,
So actually, so mom just happened to be in another state,
well, my mom.
but she had a California driver's license.
I would think so.
I don't know. Actually, that's actually a really good question. She, she's from Jersey and lived in Florida a lot and was in Florida for Porky's and met my dad and they got married and then my brother popped out and then they moved to California after the filming of the third one. So.
Oh, so I didn't realize this. So all 3 Porky's movies were shot in Florida?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
probably another reason they got dissed.
Yeah. Well, also.
Back in the day, like, if you didn't, that was.
Well, also they were working with, because I want to make a side note. I want to make a documentary about this. Nobody steal my idea. But Bob Clark is from Canada, so I think part of Fox had like a Canadian branch, and they were putting on Porky's, but then they were filming it in Florida. It was like a whole thing, craziness. So that was 1981, I think. But they were at the top of the box office with, what was it, E.T., I think? Mm-hmm. Pretty cool. I don't know. I think that's fun.
That is cool. They're the same era?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm about to piss off the world, but we already threw shade on Spielberg before
We
we
did.
started recording.
Before the microphones were on.
Porky's is probably the better film. I know a lot of people say E.T. is
We
the best film
did try
ever
watching
made.
E.T. recently, not to throw shade, but
Couldn't do
we
it.
couldn't do it. We turned it off. I mean, I watched it a lot when I was younger. Again, I'm going to throw shade at my brother. It wrecked my brother, and I don't think he's ever seen E.T. since. He's now 40. But I think we only watched it a couple times.
Yeah,
it's
the
the
guns that
guns.
are now walkie-talkies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I tried showing my daughter E.T. when I was like, oh, there's more to life than Moana, and she was so bored during the first act, and I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
like this.
Let's put Moana back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Moana kind of is a perfect movie anyway. But
Haven't seen it.
when
Maybe we'll have to watch it.
when you got a daughter, you just start.
Yeah.
All your taste changes.
Yeah.
So, all right. So should we get to how you two met, or
Sure.
were there more short films? Or just
No, there was Spotting, which is the one I did in like 2013, 14, and then I think that was the only one that is worth talking about.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's the shot on film one.
Yes. Yeah.
And then so how'd you two meet?
She lived in the apartment building next to me,
Yep.
and I would stalk her until she noticed me.
I'm so glad
And
that
it
is now
worked.
recorded, because he would tell people that I stalked him, which was incorrect.
mutual stalking.
It was a nice stalking. It wasn't like a creepy kind of thing. It was he would take his dog out for a walk, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go take my dog out too. Cute guy with pretty hairs outside. Gotta go. So I tricked him.
I feel that. I
Yeah.
feel that. I might have done the same.
Yeah.
Just that guy looks like he could talk about movies. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna grab my guinea pig and step
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah, exactly. He looks like he can party. Let's go.
And I did, yeah.
And you did, and the party never stopped, and now we're here 7 years later.
I can't be the first person to. There's not a parallel to Dry necessarily, but
Oh, no.
Dry is about neighbors.
It is.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, my younger brother always mentions that. He's like, you always make films about people in apartments. And I was like, well, because I'm never going to live in a house. We were talking about that earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think apartment life has become the new kind of middle class. So I
Yeah.
think there was something to that. Yeah.
I see it. Well, this is as somebody who's whatever. I'm in a house, but I do see apartment living like it is more European. Like in Europe, families just get an apartment and
Yeah.
like 3 generations all use the same apartment. Like the idea that everyone should have a single family home with a yard is like it's actually really kind of evil and inefficient. But I have solar panels.
Yeah.
You lucky
not
bastard.
Completely evil.
Yeah.
Not completely evil. But yeah, I think apartment living, and I mean everyone has that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're young, you live in apartments. It makes sense, and you meet people on the street walking dogs.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then we lived together for
Yeah.
almost 8 years now.
Yeah. Wow. Weird. How does that feel, Josh?
I'm ready for more.
Cool.
Yeah.
That was
Tricked him.
that was for anyone listening, there was no doubt.
Yeah.
The answer was no. But it's always good to ask a question you know the answer to.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And both dog lovers, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't have dogs anymore, sadly. But I'm trying to get more.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have a lot of neighbors who need a lot of dog sitting, so we do that a lot, which is great.
We steal the dogs sometimes.
And what's good about that is you can bring them back. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm kind of done. Here you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
At the end of the block is a couple about to have their first baby, and I'm hoping I can steal their dog more often because
When the baby comes,
although the dog is already like laying on the belly.
Oh, yeah.
That kills me.
That's their
but
baby.
Yeah, dogs are amazing. But
Yeah.
I also I won't get too much into the pet thing, but
Yeah.
but I've announced to everyone in my life that I'm only going to love things now with human lifespans.
There you go. That's fair.
Because
It's hard.
It's tough.
it's tough.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough. So, all right. So you met, and then you also obviously bonded over acting and filmmaking and creating.
I think more
Drinking?
drinking, a lot of drinking.
It's normal shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The film.
You fell in love.
Yeah.
You
And
fell in love.
I think the creative stuff kind of came
Later, yeah.
Kind of post-COVID. Both of us went back to school, sobered up. Like,
Yep.
let's do something with our lives.
Yeah.
Sobered up. So
Yeah.
there was that element too.
Yes.
So you are not an observer of addiction.
No.
Dry comes from a place of that's why probably another reason why it's great is that it comes from a place of authenticity. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, we could. So is Dry's the first collaboration?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
and
the
then
first
we
one.
shot something over the summer that Chevy's in,
Yeah.
although she didn't produce it.
I was the house mom.
Yeah.
I was in charge of making sure that we filmed it at our friend's house, who was very kind to let us use it because that saved us a lot of money.
Location manager.
Yeah, there you go.
Put that on your resume.
I'll do that. But every time somebody had to come in to go pee, I would just point to the door and I'd say, don't go anywhere else except there. And that was it.
So we did that, and then we just wrote something that we're trying to get funding for right now.
Yeah.
So you wrote Dry and showed it to her, or
So Dry started as a feature. It didn't have any of the body horror elements. It was just about her character's kind of side of things. And then we were
right?
just
So
like,
more workplace and
yeah,
because
absolutely.
that's there, but
And it didn't have any of the body horror elements. It was just kind of drama about. Because I always thought the word functional alcoholic was a really strange term. I was like, I don't really know what that means. It's odd. It's like you're recognizing someone as a problem, but also, oh, they seem good, cool.
Yeah.
So it was really weird to me. But then I think we just wanted to make something, and obviously shooting a feature wasn't doable at that time. So like, well, let's try to, because I always was attached to the story and her character, and then I just kept having the image in my head of the hand that kind of comes at the end. So like, I think there's something we can do with this, and then we just happened to have a neighbor whose mom would come, and that's the only time he would do laundry, when his mom would do the laundry. It's like, who is this person? And I also remembered at another apartment I lived in, there was a guy who would always watch pornography with his windows open,
Amazing.
which was a
and
choice.
the volume up.
I don't know, because I walked pretty fast past the window, but every time I walked past it, he was watching pornography. So I was like,
Oh, like on a 40-inch TV.
yeah, and his windows were wide open, and he was on the first level, so clearly everyone could see it that was walking past. So I was like, I think there's something to that. So we just kind of slowly married all of those ideas and then showed it to Chevy, and like, let's do it.
That is actually one of the things that extra captures me about the film. Actually, is that you do show addiction to pornography too, because I do think that that's kind of overlooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I hate to be a moralist, but like I am one of those people in their late 50s who think, God, can you, whatever, our 17-year-old tells me that every guy in her school is not a good guy. And I'm like, oh, come on, there's good guys. You're just not talking to them. And I think to myself, well, fuck, maybe in a world of unlimited pornography online, it's impossible for a straight male to grow up healthy.
Yeah.
I don't know. So pornographic addiction, I think, is super real
Yeah, absolutely.
and very rarely treated properly in the media. I mean, it's generally a joke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a joke, or people don't really want to touch it or talk. No pun intended. No, or talk about it. yeah, I think it's also something that might be. It's funny. I showed Dry to my cousin, and he was like, "I commend you for going for the pornography addiction route, kind of for the same reasons you're saying." But he was saying, he's like, "I think I don't see it a lot because it's kind of hard to portray cinematically." And I get that, because again, it can either become a joke or kind of become something different than what it is. So I think it's still kind of fresh.
Yeah. I think I really appreciate just how you show it affecting that character's life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, instead of, right, because, if they'd had a character, I'm not going to bother. But like if a dumb Netflix show had a character who had an addiction to pornography, they would just make like the joke. Like every time you walk through the room, the roommate, all of a sudden the door shuts or something. Like they would, they wouldn't show it affecting his life,
How he interacts with other people.
Affecting. I love your interactions with him, by the way. Like,
thanks.
Like the although very, very genuine. I think it's not the Hollywood answer, which is they'd meet and both help each other or whatever the fuck would happen. I assume that would be your notes if you'd written that as a feature and given it to them. Well, can't they
fall in love?
Can't they fall in love? Yeah,
well, actually,
it's more tragic.
I think it's funny during the screening at the festival. Someone asked, and someone in the audience was like, "What was the question? Do you see?" Like, is there any hope for these characters? Do you a happy ending for these characters? Do you see them overcoming their addiction? You see them overcoming their addiction. You're like, well, one guy's dead.
Yeah, one guy dies, and then my response was, I think my character was pretty okay with where she ended up because she didn't stop and
she's falling apart.
Literally falling apart.
Falling apart. Mm-hmm. I mean, am I wrong to think that she's not going to be alive that long?
Probably
I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, I think I projected out and thought they're both dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
And body horror is always... I actually really enjoy body horror at this point.
We love body horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're horror fans too?
Mm-hmm.
I think she's more... This is the first horror film I've ever made or attempted to make, and it's funny. We were talking with someone at the festival, and I told them, I was like, when we were playing at Chicago and inundated with all those horror movies, I was like, we didn't make a horror movie.
No.
Like,
we made a drama.
Yeah, we made a drama that kind of turns into something weird at the end.
Yeah, because we have other friends who got into Chicago Horror Fest, and they made a feature, and it's an 80s throwback slasher.
Super horror movie.
Yeah, like everything is like a tip of the hat to all 80s horror. But we were chatting with them, and the same thing. We're like, we didn't make a horror movie. We made a drama with some gross stuff in it. That's...
Yeah, and I mean, we are living in an era now where horror is... The breadth of horror is so wide that, if something's mildly creepy for 90 minutes...
Yep.
Like, it can be on Netflix as a horror film now. And it's not... the kids' cup of tea, but sometimes I really get into those.
Yeah.
I think Saint Maud was like one I really got into. But
I didn't see that. We saw Love Lies Bleeding, her other movie, but I haven't seen Saint Maud.
Yeah, but so now it is funny that the horror label gets put on stuff like yours, and you probably, when you're submitting to a festival, you'll check the box.
Yeah. But I think we heard back from a lot of people saying we didn't really know where to put you because it's not really horror and it's not really drama, and so we couldn't really fit you into any of our designated categories. Yeah.
I don't get credit for this. I'll credit I can't credit the person who said this to me because their name is, but this is the best line I ever heard about that. When someone says it's not really horror, is it? You can just say it's not horror to you.
Okay, I'm gonna
because
use that.
the truth is, someone who understands addiction knows that is a horror film.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it really is. Just like by the way, that quote comes in reference to Get Out.
Oh.
Because a lot of people are like, Get Out's not really a horror film. And my friend, who I'm blanking on his name, his acquaintance, said it's not horror to you, to this person. And I was like standing there going, holy fuck, you just dropped the mic.
I was going to say, you just walked away.
Because you just said, your white privilege. The reason you don't think that's a horror movie is because you're white and you don't know what it's like to feel like you don't have agency over your own physical being, Yeah. I bet that person didn't even feel burned.
Yeah, right over their head.
But I thought they were burned.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
But I think it applies to dry
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
that
absolutely.
if someone says it's not horror, it's like, what are you talking about? You've never been addicted to porn?
Yeah, this is
You
terrifying.
never left yourself in pain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thought, why am I hurting myself? And why can't I stop hurting myself?
Yep.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Well, excellent. And so Sherman Oaks was the last one, but how long did it take from like you wrote it, shared it, and decided to when did you decide? So you switched from feature to short just to get it done, just or you the idea appealed to you.
So I was actually in a screenwriting class, and the final project was to write either like a 30-minute spec script, but I don't really watch or like television, so I was like, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, or you can write a short film. So I was like, sweet, this is an opportunity to turn dry into a short film. And I mean, thank God my teacher was very, very supportive, and he was like, you should try to do something with this. I was like, okay.
And we did.
Yeah.
So you did.
Yeah.
You did. And then was it a lengthy process? Was it pretty quick and easy?
So
Is that your building?
No, actually.
No, because that building looks so LA. That's not
we
a
found that
Valley
in
Park
Hollywood.
building.
No, it's in Hollywood. It's an old 4-unit building that we found like right at the last minute, thankfully, and it actually doubled for both apartments. That's one apartment
Yeah,
that we
which
just
is
kind
very
of
cool.
addressed.
We did use our apartment for
some of it,
2 things.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, so it was October 2022 that we started shooting Kickstarter stuff. Then December 2022 we launched the Kickstarter. January
So it's
2023.
been 2 years.
Yeah, January 2023 we got our money, and then by March we were shooting.
2-year dry anniversary.
Yeah.
And then you shot, and that went well.
Yes.
No,
It
We had
was
five
great.
days.
Yeah,
4
5
days in
days.
Hollywood, 1 out here in Sherman Oaks. And then we were done with everything by October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just you hit the festival scene running. You said you applied about 20, 30 festivals?
I think 33?
33?
Something like that. Yeah.
Was that, had you experienced the festival circuit before, or was that like a first?
Only in rejection, getting rejected from a lot of festivals. So this was the first movie that actually got to play in places, which was exciting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I ask that because I guess I am like, it's a leading question because I hear so much about like the sobering experience of finding out how expensive a festival run can be.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's funny. I look at other festival submission fees and I'm like, holy crap.
It's insane. And it's obviously, the bigger the festival, the more they're going to charge. So our thing was kind of, we're not going to spend $80 to submit to places. That's just ridiculous. At that point, just burn your money, light it on fire. It's a better use for it.
Yeah.
So we just tried to do it as wisely as we could, just, the early deadlines, trying to hit every early deadline we could, specifically trying to target horror-themed festivals because it is more of a genre movie kind of.
And a lot of local ones, too, we wanted. So.
But yeah, it's expensive.
It is. And it's something, well, whatever. I personally read like a dozen emails a week that say, can we get a waiver?
Oh, yeah.
And the answer is, well, do you want the festival to fold? Like,
Yeah.
but not many people finish an indie film and then turn and look and go, oh, I got all the money I need for festival submissions. I do just copy and paste an answer like, no indie filmmakers like, hey, I got no problem with this, but so here's a discount.
Yeah.
But anyway, oh shit. I rarely say things I wish I hadn't.
Yeah, that was one.
Well,
You can edit it.
You can edit it
People
out.
listen to this. No, I don't believe in editing.
Yeah,
they
good.
can ask. If you ask based upon this podcast,
If you reference this
actually
podcast.
reference the podcast in the email. See, now no one will do it.
Yeah.
And maybe the discount will be even bigger.
There you go.
Ooh.
Yeah. We'll call it the dry discount.
Yes.
Do it.
Dry
Yeah.
24.
Love it.
Do it. Excellent. So good experience and good feedback.
Like in editing the movie and releasing it onto the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think everything's been fair. I've never heard anything that's like,
That's
what movie did you watch?
Yeah. Yeah.
And post was good.
Yeah, we had to part ways with our first editor just because things weren't getting done. So you need an editor who's going to edit. But once we found Brian, it was a breeze.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. And then, all right, so gave you the taste for more?
Yeah, that's I'm ready. Trying to do more. Luckily, again,
Right, you've already shot one.
we shot something in June. Yeah, so hopefully that'll be done early this next year. And then we have this other one that we're trying to do that we're really excited about because it's the first thing we wrote together, and we're going to direct it together.
Oh, excellent. You know, right, that used to be frowned on. And I have to admit, like, in general, I kind of find it's rare to have two directors at names. See, I don't even have the language to talk about two directors, right? Because Hollywood's been so one director focused for 100 years. But when there's a submission and there's two directors, it's almost always good.
Because usually two heads are better than one. Usually.
Yeah.
Depends on the heads. But
depend on the heads, yeah.
If they work together well, it's just it might be a better way to do things, you know?
Yeah, and I think it obviously depends on the people and more importantly the story, I think. But to me, it's just an extension of, it's the same reason I'm not the cinematographer of my own movies, because it would suck. You need someone who's really, really good at that. You need another pair of eyes to look through the camera and tell the story. So I think it's just an extension of that, at least for me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with that.
Yeah, and like you said, two heads are better than one, and it's a collaborative medium anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's very fun.
Yeah, and the different perspectives is also cool because I come from like a theater background, and we want this new project to be like blocked a very cool way. So I'm like, oh, I know how to do that. Let's get that going. And he sees it a certain way, and then I also see things a different way. So I think it'll be very cool to collab.
Yeah, because you're bringing different strengths to the table.
Yeah.
And you respect each other, which is very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. and well, if I'd done your Q&A at the festival,
What would you
and
have
all of
asked?
No, but I would have actually I would have asked a ton of fucking questions. And I would have gotten to see it on the huge
big screen.
Yeah.
It looked great.
It
by the
looked
way.
great. It was
Such-
very
isn't that
cool.
a great theater?
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that theater. I think you were in T8, but
I think so.
I think
well,
you're
I
right.
was sitting in T9.
Okay, there you go.
But God, what a dorky thing for me to talk about. Talk about no one to give two shits about the screens in Glendale. But no, I would have also asked if there were like key important people to name check and
Oh my
and
God!
thank.
I mean, everybody.
Everybody
Danger
involved.
Charles, our cinematographer, Yoon Nam, our special effects makeup artist, who was the first person we hired because we're like, if the makeup looks bad, you're gonna have a really bad movie.
Yeah.
So luckily, she was the first person we interviewed, and I know very little to none about special effects makeup, but I'm fascinated by it. And so she was just like the calmest human being and knew exactly how to achieve everything we threw at her, because a lot of that's hard and time consuming and could look really bad. But she was so confident. Obviously, I'd seen her other work. And again, she just very calmly explained, this is what I need to do. This is how much money I need. And this is how we're going to get it done. So it was like, cool. And I think we interviewed a few other people, but it was like, she's it.
Yeah.
And that obviously was key because you knew you could handle the act, right? You knew the acting was handled. You knew so many things were handled. But yeah, that was in the chain of the film. That was a link that you couldn't do for yourself.
Absolutely, and especially, and I think the best thing, it kind of goes untalked about with special effects makeup artists, but Yoon is so good with actors. She's stuck in a room with them for, especially Nick, because of all those rashes he had on his back, especially at the end. And she's so great with talent and just such a calm, welcoming human being. It was amazing.
Yeah. She was incredible.
Yeah, and same Danger Charles, the DP, and his crew was, watching them work was so much fun. And obviously all of our wonderful award-winning actors like Chevy and Nick and
outstanding cast,
There you
actually.
go.
It was outstanding. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, the guy who comes in from work, that actually really...
Philip, yeah.
There's something about that scene. I can't put my finger on it, but I don't know. I think it just drives home
Yeah, I think that's like the only real scene in the movie, like in terms of like a traditional arc of most scenes.
That's true.
And
yeah,
so-
it sort of grounds
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So that, and it grounds Chevy's character in that we like in my brain I could almost imagine the workplace scenes.
Yeah, it opens the world up.
Yeah.
And so finding Philip was, because I knew beforehand, I was like, this is like the crux of the movie and kind of like the makeup. Like if this scene falls, it's going to be tough to kind of recover. And just auditioning actor after actor. And you were talking about it earlier before the mics went up about actors coming to Hollywood and just like, oh, I want to do it because I'm famous. I want to be famous, not because you want to work and you're trying to achieve something. And I think that was kind of our motto for this whole movie and everything we work on. It's like, we want to work with people who want to do this. So you'd not believe how many submissions we got of people just like, here's my TikTok and here's me lip syncing to things and dancing. It's like, this isn't acting, right? But I don't think they know that. So had to sort through a lot of that, but I'm so grateful we found Philip. And I'd actually seen him in a movie. And so when he submitted, I was like, this guy's like a real actor. Does he know that what we're trying to do isn't... Because he was in a great film called The Art of Self-Defense with Jesse Eisenberg and Alessandro Nivolo, and he was amazing in it. And he submitted, and I was like, is this a joke? And then we talked to him, and he was great. So
He was great.
Yeah, and the answer is... all my friends who are successful actors, they love to say actors want to act.
And that's what he said. He's like,
Yeah.
it's you. It's this scene that you wrote is really, really good, and that's why I want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, sweet.
Yeah, and exactly, and probably a more rewarding day for him.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. He was great. He beats me up, but he was very sweet about it. After every time Josh would call cut.
Harsh, yeah.
Well, he kept... it was the biting. I think that's what really he was having a tough time with. He's like, I feel like I'm really biting her.
I'm like,
well, you kind of got to. And
gotta.
so she encouraged him.
I'm like, just bite me. I don't care. I can take it. But also, when he has to grab me and choke me, that part he was holding back a lot, and I'm like, you just gotta, just fucking go for it, dude. I'm not a little flower. I'm not gonna break. Like, it's gonna be okay. And then he finally got into it, which is cool. Mm-hmm. Very sweet. We were worried because before filming his scene, he was really sick. So we were really worried that he wasn't going to make it, and he made like a miraculous recovery.
Yes.
Like we were ready to rewrite the scene with.
We were considering options.
We're considering options,
right? Because you didn't have the location. Yeah. If he didn't get well, it's not like you could go back to that apartment
exactly.
a week or two later.
Yeah.
So we were very thankful that it all worked out. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
It worked out, and it expands the breadth of the film, and you got the performance you wanted.
Yes.
And I don't think you shared how I'm peeking at his name, Nick Sampson.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know him in advance?
No.
No.
And I'm so glad I didn't, but I told Chevy after we finished Dry, like it was done in post and the movie was done, I was like, I think the best decision I made this entire process was hiring Nick.
Yeah.
Because not only is he like insanely talented, but he's such a good human being, and we've gotten to know him, and I wrote the thing we shot in June with him, and we made another movie together, and he's already cast the next thing we want to do.
Yeah.
Because I've never met an actor like him, and I think going back to what we were talking about, so many people doing it to be famous or doing it for reasons that I can't really connect with, but his kind of reasoning behind doing it and his process and what he's trying to get and what he pulls out of us, I think is so rare and so special. He's so talented.
Yeah, and people who are real people.
Yeah.
A real person who cares about the acting. I just have to mention the TikTok thing, which is that like every once in a while we'll have a film and like the filmmaker will say, oh, well, our lead, it's a good film and it's in the festival. This hasn't been for a couple of years, but like even back when we were at the little Whitefire Theater in Sherman Oaks, like people would be like, how many seats do you have? Because my lead actor is
an influencer.
400,000 followers on Instagram. Crickets.
Yeah. Shocking. Yeah.
Social media followers don't come. Like you'd think they'd be like, oh my God, I get to meet the person and watch a Q&A. No, they're just like, I look at them on my phone and it
to
stops
pass the time.
there.
Yeah.
There's literally no value to it. And I keep hearing that agents and managers care about like people's followings. Like, I'll sign them if they have, X number of followers
But
on
what are they
socials.
going to do with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, and those people actually aren't.
No.
It's all fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it is what it is. It doesn't export.
Yeah. No, 100%.
To support for the person or their work.
And I remember seeing Nick's reel for the first time because, again, I was inundated with all the TikTok stuff and finally like a real reel. And it was amazing. And just the variety of stuff he was doing, I was like, and he's got such a great face. I was like, I need to meet this guy. Yeah.
And we met him and immediately just fell in love with him.
That's him.
We're like,
Yeah.
all right, that's it.
Because I don't really audition people. I think auditions can be tricky, especially like over Zoom and all. It's hard for me to like. I feel bad for them. I know the audition process is just so unnerving in and of itself, and then trying to do it separated with a camera and a computer and technology, it's a lot. So as long as I can see someone's work and I can get to just know them as a person, that kind of is my indication.
And the other producer's an actor, and you support the no audition thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you want to work with people who you get along with, they understand the vision, they want to add to it, and we're creating a relationship with people that we now want to continue to work with. So like Nick is always like Josh, Nick and I want to do a play together that Nick actually showed us. So doing that will be very cool, and like our next project is going to be pretty awesome, and just being able to have a network of people that we know can accomplish what we want to accomplish I think that's the most important thing. Then, and I do theater auditions. Oh my God, they're hard. Auditions are hard, guys.
And sometimes, I've worked with actors who, and I have in the past done auditions. That's how I learned that I don't like doing them. Because someone in the room might be awesome, and then you actually try to work with them and direct them, and it's just not there.
It's not there, yeah.
So that's why getting to know them as human beings, just for me personally, is way more rewarding.
And also seeing someone's reel and then meeting them, like that's how we felt about Nick. We saw his reel, and we're like, oh man, this guy's a great
Who is
actor.
this man? Yeah.
And then we met him, and he's the complete
Yeah.
opposite of these characters he's playing. I'm like, okay, he's a fucking actor. Let's go.
Yeah, and like Josh said, the reel shows you the talent, so then you don't need to see them doing these particular pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to get a vibe for the person, not just to collaborate, but yeah, you do learn a lot from that. And it isn't just about working well together. Yeah, it is getting a sense of the person and what their priorities are.
Yeah, and why they're doing it and what they're trying to say. And I think also a big thing is like, well, what are your favorite movies? Because I've gotten to that predicament before. It's like you realize halfway through, it's like we're making totally different movies. That's not good. Yeah.
I'll just share a fun story, which was in '96. I was involved in something, and the cinematographer, who I thought was a cool guy, I made some reference to The Usual Suspects as like the best film of that year, and he's like, I didn't even see that. What is that? And I was like, fuck me. I got a cinematographer who not only didn't see The Usual Suspects, but has no respect for the indie scene. So he's just doing indie shit because he can't get the bigger shit.
Yeah, and that's that's fine. It's cool.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But maybe respect it? I don't know. That was a huge red flag.
Yeah, to your point, you got to see the same movie, right? Yeah.
For sure. Was there something that you had in mind? Like, would you say to people, have you seen X?
Yeah, I think Repulsion, the Roman Polanski film, that was a big one. Titan, the French film, that was another big one. And I told our makeup artist to watch Titan, and it was my fault. I didn't give her a heads up before. I don't know if you've seen it. It's really intense body horror film.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard.
It's really intense, and I didn't give her any sort of like warning. And like 2 hours later, she texts me. She's like, "Why did you make me do that? That was so disturbing. Like you just jokingly, she's like, you just ruined my whole day." So I'm sorry.
But you don't have to worry because a makeup artist, someone who does effects makeup, should certainly appreciate.
You don't know, and she absolutely did, but it's still an intense, heavy movie.
Yeah.
And it's weird, and it's really like it sticks to you a lot. So I think those were two of the big ones. I'm sure there was
Shame.
Yeah, we showed Nick Shame, the C. McQueen film.
Oh yeah,
love that movie.
Unbelievable movie.
Yes.
Oh my god.
So I think those were 3 of them.
Yeah. No, your inner cinephile is
Showing,
showing. Yeah. No, I mean, well, and that goes back to your youth of like just renting films and experiencing them, and it's fantastic. I mean, I am not surprised that you're naming excellent movies as inspirations, because I don't think one would. I don't know. I was about to throw shade at other people, but I don't need to. But let's just say when you run a festival and you see submissions, you're like, well, that person's not an artist. They're just like auditioning to like make a fancier film, like they just want to be a big shot.
Yeah.
And they don't give two shits about the indie scene. They're like that cinematographer I just mentioned, where they're just doing it because it's a stepping stone. It's not, which is fair.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
But each step you should respect and love what you're working on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, well, are we missing anything?
I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to talk about anymore?
Well, don't ask me, because I never shut up.
Yeah.
I just want to heap more praise on both of you in Drive, because I just think it's, besides everything else I said about it, I think I find it bold, and I don't think there's enough bold films like right. It does challenge its audience, and I think it challenges everyone, because I mean, maybe it is that it's on the dark side, but it's truthful and it's real, and I don't think there's that many. I think a lot of people shy away.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the big things in editing it, was knowing we were probably going to go that route. But I think Chevy's brother was super, super helpful, because I even expressed some of that to him, and he's like, I think the first cut that we showed him, he was like, don't change it. Make the movie you want to make. If people don't get it, that's not on you. You've given them enough that they should be able to grab onto it.
Yeah.
But I think, not to toot my own horn, but I think we were bold, and I think, like you said, not enough movies do that, because I don't know if it's a filmmaker scared or whoever is scared that people won't get it or they'll somehow be removed from it, but I like movies that demand you to participate, even if I don't, like David Lynch, right? I don't fully understand what he's doing, but I know he does, and that's part of the enjoyment for me. And the mystery of it, I think, is what keeps those movies alive.
Absolutely. And fuck it, it's an indie short, so you might as well make the exact film you want to see.
Right, yeah.
Because it's not like if you'd, if we tone it down and make it a little, and leave a little hope at the end.
Right.
It's not like, oh, well, now,
maybe everything will be okay.
Now, the Warner Brothers ain't gonna pick it up. You know what I mean? Like it's a silly myth to like why compromise when you don't have to.
No, 100%.
And I'm against compromise anyway. Like I'd rather. In fact, I sometimes I give like a really high rating to a film that I don't even enjoy, just because I'm like, God bless you for getting that made. In fact, this is the silliest thing I'm going to say of the day. That's kind of my attitude towards the Barbie film. Is I didn't actually enjoy it, but I can't fucking believe that those two went into meetings with movie executives and Mattel executives and got that fucker onto the screen.
Yeah, and then made a shitload of money.
Made them a shitload of money, but even if it had bombed,
they did it.
Just the courage, just to be able to get it done. I got other examples, but I can't think of them.
That's
where
a solid
I'm like,
one.
where I'm like, God bless you. God bless you for just leaning into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lean into your ideas.
Yeah.
Picasso didn't hold back. I wish. I'm a huge Picasso fan.
Oh, okay.
And it's very difficult to know how he treated women now.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. All right. Let alone all the great actors we grew up loving.
Yep.
And filmmakers. And
Talented
people. It always breaks my heart. I love a movie and it's like, it was the worst experience of my life. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the day where everything was a positive experience, everyone got something out of it, and the movie was still good. I feel like a lot of times it's either one or the other. Or people think it has to be one or the other. You have to have a miserable time to make good art.
Wasn't the film Closer. That was the one Mike Nichols directed with Natalie Portman and Jude Law. Just add this nice little positivity about a big film director. Is Natalie Portman, I believe, said that Mike Nichols was the only male director she's ever had where there wasn't a creepy moment.
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
she gets...
And that's a creepy as fuck movie.
It could easily go the other way, especially with that.
She easily could have been made uncomfortable, blah, blah. And instead, like to say that, like, I was treated with the utmost respect. So there, we can end on a high note.
Love that.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Nichols is not a douchebag.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, hey, I'll... is there any social media handles or stuff that people should follow?
Dry has its own account. It's at dry.movie. If anybody wants their hair done in Sherman Oaks, they can follow me, Hair by the Night. Shameless plug. I'm the social media one of the group. Josh is not on it.
I don't have social media.
Doesn't have it.
That's good.
Never had. Everyone tells me that. Every time I tell them that, they're like, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's actually another actor, filmmaker, is also not on socials and made a film called Muck. I don't know if you got to see Muck in the Sherman Oaks. It's actually his second one with us. And it's always funny because our person who does our socials, you know, one of their jobs is to link the actors and directors to the posts about the screenings. And she was like, I can't find this dude. I'm like, oh, yeah, Dan's not on.
He's not
he
on
has
there.
no socials, you know.
Good for him.
And she's like, how's he doing it? And I'm like, well, think about it. Like, you know.
There's other ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I already said, like, the people with huge followings, no one shows up to their screenings anyway.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. You think it helps.
It doesn't.
I don't know.
I have it for my business.
Well, if you want to see pictures of fruit in the backyard and a cute guinea pig, you can follow my socials.
Perfect.
Because I do share pictures of Chester now and then.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, besides pets and food,
Yeah.
what are socials for?
I don't know.
But you mentioned hair.
I do hair, yeah.
You do
That's my
hair.
main gig.
Nice.
So-
Next time the kid is begging mom to cut her hair.
Yeah,
Well,
right down the
that's Chevy's
street.
superpower. She gives haircuts that don't look like you got haircuts.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, nice. Nice.
I can't work with yours, though. I'm sorry.
No, I am actually in charge of my own.
Yeah.
And,
It's working. It's
you
good.
know, I feel sorry for people with hair. I don't actually. And Josh does have beautiful hair.
He does have beautiful hair.
I'm a
I
fan.
did.
I'm a fan of the hair. But I did have beautiful long hair back in the day. I was trying to look like a 70s bassist
Yes.
Oh, okay.
when I was in college in the 80s.
Well, we were just at the movie theaters on Christmas Day, and we got out of the theater.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the older gentleman, I was waiting for Chevy to finish at the bathroom, and it was Christmas Day. It was packed, and this dude comes up to me. He's like, "You look like the guy in the movie I just saw." I was like, "What movie did you see?" It's like the Bob Dylan movie. He was like, "You think I look like Bob Dylan?" He's like, "No, you look like Timothy Chalamet." I was like, "Well, I don't think so, but thank you."
So now every time I drop him off somewhere, I'm like, hey, you look like that Timothy Chalamet. You don't look like Timothy
I know,
Chalamet.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's still a compliment.
It is. No, I appreciate it.
But doesn't he play Bob Dylan?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird thing to say. You
Yeah.
don't look like Bob Dylan,
But you look like
the
the
guy
actor,
who played.
who's in makeup to look like Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an
I just said
interesting
thank
one.
you and just
Yeah.
left it at that.
I just hear Ben Kingsley and Keegan
funny.
Michael Key, who actually I can entertain you if you want to see a picture of
That's
us
funny.
together. We are actually twins.
That's amazing.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Bette Midler to call me so I can do a biopic with her. Of her.
Oh,
Bette, call me.
there you go. Or you can just write it.
Should we?
Write an unofficial thing about Met Bidler. And
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's
She'll never
hilarious.
know,
She'll
yeah.
never know.
I love that.
I love her so much.
if you may, she's so talented.
She's so incredible.
And by the way, now we're dragging it out. But she kicks ass on the socials.
She's all over social media
And
again.
she's
killing it.
verbose
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
upfront.
I love it.
She's
I don't know if
heroic.
it's her running it or if she has someone helping her, but
That is a valid point.
Yeah, she does some great stuff, and there's always around Halloween, everybody's posting their Winifred Sanderson homage tributes, and she's always reposting them. It's great.
But she's just got zero fucks. She gives
Yeah.
zero fucks. She'll just be as
She also
political as she wants to be.
she doesn't curse. Have you noticed that?
No.
If you look at, like, especially now, I've seen her on interviews and things,
She
and
doesn't need to.
she doesn't need to.
Yeah.
I think I saw a thing with her and Kathy Griffin, and I think Bette Midler said to her, like, why do you say these words? Why do you have such potty mouth? You don't need to do that. Like, that just blows my mind.
That is so sobering for me.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
Jesus. Maybe, tomorrow's January 1st. Maybe I won't curse next year.
Yeah, fuck that.
I'll say fuck. I'll get every other word today will be fuck.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Get all the fucks out.
A couple years ago, my New Year's resolution was never wear blue jeans again.
Really?
How'd that go?
I'm holding to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think I've done it a few times, but it's partially because I shouldn't say it, but my first wife once said to me, like, well, you live in blue jeans. And that always stuck in my
Trauma.
head.
Interesting.
I was like, you know what? Maybe now I'm grow up. I won't wear blue jeans anymore.
We're trying to get out of our comfort zone for
Doesn't matter if I wear
2025.
jeans that are green.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
I mean, what's the difference? I don't know. All right, I'm rambling. Chevy, Josh, thank you both so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jeff.
I will do my closing spiel, which is thank you everyone for listening. If you are still listening, like and subscribe. Be nice. Write a review even of this podcast. If you want to learn more about the podcast, go to discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always at DIFwins. We talked about Sherman Oaks Film Festival, where Dry screened and took home the award for Best Cast. If you want to learn more about that festival, go to ShermanOaksFF.com. On social media, it's always at ShermanOaksFF. It has a sister festival every June called Film Invasion Los Angeles. You can learn about that one if you go to @FilmInvasionLA.com. I said at FilmInvasionLA.com, which is
Love
both. It's at FilmInvasionLA.com and it's at FilmInvasionLA on social media. And the last thing is, if you're listening to this, go to IndieChannel.tv. Check it out. It's just go to IndieChannel.tv.
Just do it.
I'll just leave it at that.
Just go.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank
you,
you.
And thank you everyone for listening.
Yay.